What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. This is CT3939 doing a breakdown of Andor Episode 10, One Way Out. And I got to say, that episode shook me to my bones. I will get to why in a second. It 100% has to do with Luthen's speech, but there were also incredible scenes, incredible quotes. It was just moving in a way that I haven't really been moved in a Star Wars um, show, movie in a really long time. And I'll just kind of go over different arcs that showed up in this episode, but the big ones that we'll focus on is Andor. The big ones that we'll focus on is obviously the ending with Luthen, which I'm going to do another video on because that speech at the end was, again, just incredible. But this episode was called One Way Out. Original air date November, what is today? 9th, written or directed rather by Toby Haynes and then written by Tony Gilroy. And these episodes have been following a series of patterns. So typically you'll have 2 episodes of build up. That third episode, like Aldani, is really the climax. And so very similar to here, you have Andor and everyone in the prison on floor B getting ready to get out. And so you see Olaf in a body bag, and that's where it really starts to hit Kino. Wow, we got to do something. And Andor's just peppering him. He's in his ear. Hey, we got to do something. He's pitching Kino. And in comes this quote. One of the ones that I really love is power doesn't panic, because Kino is saying they have power. They can fry us. They can kill us. But Andor makes a good point. Power doesn't panic. If you know that you have the upper hand, you're not worried. But they could tell that these guards were worried. That's why they were doing what they were doing. That's why they were frying an entire floor. And so then we get the next quote that I really loved. I'd rather die trying to take them down than die giving them what they want. And we see Kino use that in his speech to the facility at the end. And so, like I said, this episode was loaded with, I think, quotes that will be used in future, uh, YouTubes, TikToks, different voiceovers. Like, you were going to see some of these quotes on t-shirts because these were powerful. These were so engaging in this episode. It's like I'm like still sweating. My palms are sweaty. It was so intense, and I enjoyed it thoroughly the entire time. So they get into the room, and Andor tells everyone, hey, this is what happened. They fried the entire floor. And Kino doesn't want to admit it, but eventually, they wake up, and he's like, hey, there is one way out, and it is go time. They're getting a new man on the floor. They're bringing in the new guy. Tension is high, and they all start arming themselves. And I thought it was cool how they had their hands behind their head, but behind their hands and behind their neck would be, a rod. Someone I saw had, what is it, brass knuckles or some variation of that. And so they're ready. The plan's been down. Andor's able to get the water valve to start spraying water, and that's ultimately what fries the floor, so that when they go to fry the floor and Andor and everyone starts attacking, it doesn't work, right? And that's where everything really starts to take place. I thought it was really cool to see the blasters they were using is a version of the blasters that we see in A New Hope that the um, resistance fighters are using. The ones, in that initial scene when the stormtroopers are firing down the line, then you have the rebel soldiers firing those pistols with just a little it's like a silver silencer almost on top of what would be a regular handgun. And so I thought that was a really cool callback. But eventually they start killing all the soldiers. They start escaping, and they get to the command section. And this guy whose voice, it kind of reminded me of, what was that big show that everyone lost their minds on, Squid Games, where you have the voice that's speaking over the microphone, and it ends up just being one person with a voice that's altered. And that's what this guy is. He's just the guy who says, hey, everyone on program, floors are going to fry. And it's just some regular dude. And so Andor, Kino come in, point the gun at him. You see them speaking into that microphone, the same one that Han speaks into in A New Hope as well. So getting a few different things within this episode that definitely call back to the original trilogy, but this also had a very, I would say, unique feel from a Star Wars sense. So it's all hydro. I cracked up at this part when the guy said, turn it off. And he's like, I'll power it off. And he's like, no, turn it all the way off. He's like, it's hydro. It'll take a month or two to reset. And he's like, you think Andor cares that it's going to take a month or two to reset? I just thought that guy's excuse was just so lame, but also it's such an Empire thing to do. Like, oh no, we can't. It's like, you have a gun to your head. You can. So they end up powering everything off. Kino comes and gives a speech, and the speech was so savage. And as he started to get more animated, it also reminded me a lot of Golem reminded me a lot of Snoke. Obviously, Andy Serkis is the actor for those characters. And as his eyes start to bulge and he starts, right, it kind of reminds you of Gollum eating the fish, Snoke getting all angry. And, it's just Kino, but it's cool having that backstory on that actor. So eventually everyone starts getting out, 5,000 soldiers. And it's really cool to see that final shot as the water gets cut off from the hydropower. At the end, it zooms out over what is ultimately that Empire emblem, and the men end up jumping out. I hope Kino gets over his fear of swimming. He just escaped prison. Like, there are worse things. I'm sure someone can help him swim, but Kino says, "Hey, I can't swim," and Andor gets knocked over. And then the episode ends with essentially Andor looking or running underneath moonlight with another escaped prisoner. And, we'll see where he ends up in the next episode. A couple other things to call out. You have Ferrix. You see a stormtrooper kind of looking over, and there's this Dr. Molmoy, and Cinta's spying on them. My guess is that they're going to show up at Andor's mother's house, Marva, and for some reason, Marva's not taking her medicine, and Marva's, just kicking and screaming, being a rebel in every sense of the word. We get that one scene with Mon Mothma. She's meeting with Davo. Initially, when I heard Davo, I was like, wait, is that Dabo? Like Dabo Sweeney? And I don't know, for some reason, I made a connection that those two would be the same type of guys or evil guys. Anyway, it ends up being just some random dude. I kind of wanted, I'll be honest, I wanted this guy to be an alien, or I wanted this guy to look rough. I get that he's Chandrilan. I get that he's like this mega billionaire. And I don't have this issue with Andor like some other people do, but it was just another like white dude. It was just another well-dressed white dude. I'm like, come on, give me something a little bit spicier. This guy's supposed to be a thug, and he's just some guy who makes money a little bit shadier than Mon Mothma. And found it really interesting that Mon has a price, or not, doesn't have a price. She has a line, and it's her daughter. It's her 14-year-old daughter, because Davo is willing to do everything for them. Mon's playing it, just super to the point. And this guy's like, all right, cool. She's got her politician responses. And then his proposal is, I don't want a fee. I don't need money, but I would like to introduce my 14-year-old son to your 14-year-old daughter. Doesn't have to be an arranged marriage, but we'll see what happens, which is going to happen, because the Chandrilan way, as we've seen with Perrin and Mon Mothma, is that you get married really young, 15 years old. And so her daughter is right about the time ready to get married. And so that's where she draws the line. She says, Davo, get out of here. Take Holma walks him out. And I thought his line was perfect, where he's like, that's the first untrue thing you've said, right? And this guy can see right through everything. He's probably been around the block. He's probably met with the galaxy's most powerful people. You don't get that kind of wealth not knowing what people are actually saying behind the words that they are saying. And so I think in the next episode, we'll see Mon really come to grips with like, hey, if you're going to play this game, you got to sacrifice things. You got to sacrifice your image. You got to potentially sacrifice the people around you. At some point, she's going to have to sacrifice a relationship with Perrin. Perrin's not in the different starships in the original trilogy. That guy gets offed at some point. So something to think about. But then we get to the final arc, which I'm kind of grouping together with the ISB and Luthen, because for me, this was actually the highlight of the episode. Despite Andor escaping, Luthen and the speech that he gives at the end, my God, it's incredible. And so Krieger's men take the bait. The soldier, or the pilot, is, he dies in space. I think they said that he was frozen. Yeah, the operator froze, the ship's adrift. And so Clea, it fast forwards to a scene where Clea is saying, hey, there's a mark on the Foundation. The guy, whoever that guy is, it ends up being Lonnie, wants to meet. And she's like, is this a trap? And Lucen's like, I don't know. There's no way, if it's a trap, we've already lost, right? And we know that now, because if Luthen is in the ISB, which we see him side by side with Dedra, if he's, lost his cover, then everything that Luthen has fought to create is really already gone. So at the end of the episode, you get essentially Lonnie going down an elevator. And for a second, I thought it was Blue Leader, the pilot in Rogue One. I don't know why I'm saying that. The pilot in Rogue One, Blue Leader Merrick. I thought it was Merrick for a second. He just has kind of a similar look, but it ends up being Lonnie. I don't know why it took me a little while. It was dark watching the show, but they end up meeting face to face as Lonnie's coming down. He's listening to Luthen essentially talk. He says, hey, I know you have a daughter. She's beautiful. And Lonnie's like, oh shit, they got me. They got me by the balls. If they know I got a daughter, beautiful baby daughter, and Luthen knows, and Luthen knows a lot. I'm gonna guess Luthen is as well. He's like almost the chess master of Palpatine. I know he's not to the same level, but the way he's interweaved and the way he thinks, and again, his speech at the end makes me kind of get a sense that this guy knows everything and is able to pull multiple strings, and he's willing to sacrifice and do whatever he needs to so that this empire can be defeated. So Luthen says, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice 50 men on Krieger so that you can keep your cover, because Lonnie wants out. Lonnie's got that daughter. He's like, I don't think I can do this anymore. He's I thought it was hilarious when Luthen's like, what? So you're gonna give me a little going away goodie basket and sign off? No, you took a vow. And Lonnie wants out because Lonnie's getting scared, but that's what happens. It starts to heat in the kitchen. Things get hotter, things get tighter. And then at the end, Lonnie says, what have you sacrificed? Because Lonnie goes on this little speech, I've sacrificed this, wah. And then that's when Luthen hit him. And I don't have the entire speech. I'll post this in another video and do kind of a mashup edit of this speech over a bunch of different media from Star Wars and using the rebels as the media. But the part where he says, I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I look down, there is no longer any ground beneath my feet. I burn my decency for someone else's future. Oh my God. Like that's the Gettysburg Address for the rebellion, right? That is the Declaration of Independence for the rebellion. Like I said earlier, it's going to be on a T-shirt at some point, and that is the speech of the rebels, because that's what they did. They had to sacrifice everything. They had this idea, they had this dream for 15 years. Luthen says that he has been writing down this equation and trying to figure out how this is all going to work. And the deeper you get in it, the deeper you realize that hole is, and that you're never coming out. And everything that you have to sacrifice in order to be able to have that dream come to fruition. It reminded me a lot of what it takes probably for someone to build a massive company, a massive business, and the sacrifices that it takes in order to have that willpower and drive that thing across the finish line. So incredible episode. I would say 10 out of 10. Some of the best Star Wars I've seen. Obviously, we'd love it if it had lightsabers and Jedi, but the writing is so good. I love this writing. And let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know what you thought of the writing. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the final 2 episodes down below in the comments. If you like this video, if you like these breakdowns, subscribe, leave a note, leave a comment, hit the like button, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Going to be coming out with a new video, Who is Commander Bly? That's going to be dropping a little bit later this week. And thanks for watching. This is CT3939 on the Trooper Transmission, signing out.